much, Lee. That was great. All right. So next up we have Michael, and after Michael's reading, we'll have a short Q&A where you guys can ask the readers any questions you have, so keep that in mind. All right. Michael Aaron Casares is a writer and publisher. His debut novel, The Distance to the End, was featured in Publishers Weekly. He is also author of 2 collections of poetry, This Reality of Man and Sad Height. He has also authored several chapbooks of poetry and has work published online and in print, the most recent being in the latest edition of Zombie Logic Review and Babbling of the Irrational. Michael edits the online poetry journal Carcinogenic Poetry and founded the late indie publishing press Virgogray Press. He lives in Austin. Welcome, Michael.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here tonight. I am Michael Aaron Casares, and I'm very excited to be here as part of Malvern's first Pride Novel Night. So I think it's a great thing, and it's wonderful that it's happening tonight. As far as my book, I will be sharing with my debut novel. It's entitled The Distance to the End, and it was actually published a year ago this month. So this is kind of like a nice little anniversary reading as well. Don't want to take up too much time, so I'll just say The Distance to the End is purely fiction. It takes place in Las Vegas. It's basically like a whirlwind weekend kind of in Las Vegas thing. It is not a docu-novel of love, betrayal, and speculation, I promise. It's fiction. And the protagonist's name is Nicholas Duke. He is a writer/poet, and he is going along with his boyfriend Raoul, who is once estranged. So they're back together again. The other characters that you will be meeting tonight are Neville and Gladys Acosta, that is Nicholas's best friend of old time, and his lovely wife. Just so you know, they are new money, and they're the ones who invited them on this whirlwind weekend in Las Vegas. At this point in the story, they've settled into their suites. It's going to be at the Planet Hollywood. Now, there are 21 chapters in the story. It's Las Vegas, so that's a theme. It was very much done intentionally. And we're going to pick up on chapter 9 tonight. At this point, they've been sightseeing, they've been shopping, they arrived very early on in, and they've been drinking and getting high on all types of stimulants since they arrived, so that's kind of like where they're filming right now, just in case, so you get the idea. And they've returned to their suites and they're freshening up just before dinner. So we'll pick up with Raoul and Nicholas Duke in chapter 9. All right, it starts this way. Whoever said you were going to come to Las Vegas and get your kidneys cut out and end up on ice in some 2-penny seedy hotel bathroom? I don't know. I know it was said, though. The black market has a good reason to exist in a place like Las Vegas. Where else could thugs and loan sharks sell human organs if their debtor is a couple grand in the hole with no means of repayment? That's a nightmare reserved for those who can't handle Vegas, or perhaps for those who are too scared to visit. Still, I'd never seen anything of that sort in all my time there. Usually, it was men and women fighting. The female would be pissed at the male and his buddy for some reason and be so drunk and out of her head that she'd be screaming at them, smashed and livid with her breasts brimming over a thin black halter top, a skirt short to the thighs, a show for all the spectating pedestrians. Next thing you know, she's trying to start a cat fight with them, and instead they hop in their car and take off without her, and she runs after them in the middle of the street, drunk, crying, and screaming. If it's not a scenario like that, then perhaps maybe the girlfriend is passed out, stone cold from boozing, and whatever else she may be into, and the boyfriend is going crazy, looking for a phone, but nobody will help him because this is Vegas, and the tourists who've all been sold horror stories of theft and dishonesty on the strip don't know if they can trust. They are taught to be paranoid and fearful and untrusting, and so they say their phone is dead or they have no phone, which is a straight up lie because in this day and age, who doesn't have a phone? And I'm not judging, trust me. I've been in these two situations at least once before, but that's on par with what I've come to expect from a city like Vegas. There had been no crazy mob stuff or missing friend hangover type shenanigans. There'd only been boozing, drugging, and sexing. Still, you couldn't deny the history of the town. That's where all the kidnapping and black market stories came from, and the mob had been more than an influence on the city. Mischief could only travel so far in Vegas before wearing thin. You could take your shenanigans to all four corners of Las Vegas, but it didn't mean the whole place was like the Strip. I had some friends and associates who lived in Vegas, and they never had anything to complain about other than average theft and a downed economy, but a depressed economy went for everyone and everywhere at this point. Well, most of the world anyway. Raoul and I were heading down the corridors to meet Neville and Gladys for dinner. The hotel decor was minimal and modern with its own fabulous elegance, a hint that seemed more indulging with a slight buzz. Most of the alcohol effects worked off in our hours passionate and a reinvigorating shower. We had shared a half joint of fine hydroponic. Raoul had done an ace job hiding it from me, and I was surprised again at how engaged he'd become in the drug culture. I was also surprised he was partaking in Gladys's white sands too. It was the effects of Sin City, I was sure. It even had me doing more than my usual, and my usual wasn't what it used to be. Looking and feeling as good as we did, being where we were, we couldn't help but to feel like somebody. Yes, I went to Las Vegas, and this was my tale to tell. The corridors were dim. At the elevator lobby, we passed a portrait of a nubile Liza Minnelli, a vixen surrounded by hunkish men. Neville's choice restaurant? Something close to home as possible. He vied for the Tex-Mex. One casual Cabo Wabo. Well, I could do for some tequila. Dinner moved fast. Several shots, beers, and margaritas all rolled into Neville's fastidious attitude for perfection. He having been in the service industry for several years himself. It was the only industry he could work in where money came under the table in cash. Most immigrants, illegal or not, took underhanded jobs. His mother, for instance, did home care tasks and babysitting to supplement waitressing. Neville himself had been a waiter and proud of his service industry work. The lottery winnings only made the chip on his shoulder bigger, but not heavier for this titan. I wasn't too sure about Gladys's upbringing, but I do know about their families were from the same town in Mexico, more than 10 hours from the border. But as the niece of a coke dealer, I'm sure there was money there somewhere. I believe her family had been better off than Neville's back in Mexico. Like most Tex-Mex cantinas and other cantina-type restaurants in Torchtown, USA, the place was garishly colorful and festive. You realized, of course, if you actually went to any restaurant that was not in Torchtown, Mexico, they looked nothing like this, and the mariachis were more likely to be singing a Spanish rendition of Breakfast at Tiffany's rather than a traditional Mexican cuento. Sure, maybe in Cancun or maybe even in Baja you'd see a place like Cabo Wabo, but those joints were all franchised. The drinks were decent, and that's all I really was interested in at a good Mexican restaurant. A good margarita or a Mexican martini. Sometimes I liked margaritas bloody, as I did now, swirled in sangria. Today's mix was lethal when compared to all personal drinking history, but the Coke would keep me from the blackout, awake to all that Las Vegas had to offer. I didn't want to miss a thing, and I prayed my kidneys would hold out. Chapter 10. Dinner ended abruptly when the manager came over and put a hold on our tab. We all had a few drinks each, a few rounds of shots. They had a special drink bowl that came with 4 straws. We had gone through 2 of those while taking turns in the bathroom, keying cocaine out of an exhausted little baggie. We were loud and obnoxious. We were tourists in a tourist Tex-Mex restaurants on the most fabricated straight in America. We were having a grand old time. We wanted to do karaoke, but the manager insisted we leave after Neville seized him by his tie and asked him if they sold Cabo Wabo sombreros in their gift shop. The manager was less than enchanted and just about called security before Gladys distracted Neville and paid the bill, plus left a hefty tip. We exited the establishment quickly and headed to the black and white tiled interior of the Miracle Mile shops. We were drunk but lucid, all but Neville. He seemed to begin to drag and stumble a little. It was classic Neville. He seemed to become a total schmuck when he was boozed up. Before you knew it, he'd be vomiting, or crying, or both. I walked next to him and tethered him by placing his arm across the back of my shoulder. "What's up, buddy? How you doing?" I asked, mildly askew. He hiccuped. "Not much. Just enjoying Vegas." He looked at me and smiled. His eyes, though naturally oblong, looked like closed slits. "Damn, man, we've drank so much already for one day. When did we start?" "Early," I replied, the alcohol vapor expelled from the esophagus. "Damn, man, I feel drunk. I don't think I've been this drunk in a long time. Damn, man. Damn Vegas." He pumped his fist in the air, a true warrior. "Well, you'd better get ready for tomorrow. We're going to a bottomless happy hour." I was unwavered, lucid enough to control. I felt a little shaky. My eyes felt wide open. I suddenly craved a joint. Neville slowed down a bit and inspected me. "Why aren't you all fucked up? You drank a hell of a lot too, and you haven't even blacked out yet. What the hell, man? The old you would be kicking down the walls." "Ha! How do you know I'm not blacked out right now?" I said. "Chances are I won't even remember this tomorrow." We walked along in that manner, pointing at the shops and eateries until Neville broke into a coughing fit that resulted in him vomiting into a trash can, scaring a family of four trying to enjoy a late-night ice cream cone. The daughter cried as bits of spittle flung across her rocky road, vanishing into the chocolate. She looked quizzically at her mother, then her lip curled, and she began to scream, throwing the ice cream at Neville, but missing and hitting the trash can instead. Neville, thinking he was going to get ice cream all over him, threw his arms up in defense and fell back, screaming at the top of his lungs. Gladys tried to calm him, but to no avail. The halls were marble and resonant, reverberated with his voice as he grabbed his ass and got up, still coughing, regurgitated Carnegie Sada hanging off of his cheek. I looked around, only to see a handful of onlookers filming with their touch phones and video blog equipment. I laughed. It was like 2013. A shirt in a window read, "What happens in Vegas stays on the internet." Whether or not Neville remembered this moment, chances are he'd always be able to relive it. Raoul and I left Gladys and Neville to each other and headed off hand in hand. We reached the exit to the Miracle Mile shops, which was actually the entrance to the entire building. We walked out onto Las Vegas Boulevard, the crisp desert air filling our lungs. Before us stood the Bellagio fountains and the Paris Balloon and the Eiffel Tower, as close to Paris as I'd ever been. It was dark out. The lights of the Las Vegas Strip fluoresced and dazzled. I was lost in a buzz of sights and sounds. Horns honked, bells rang, and whistles blew, car bass thumped, people chattered, card hustlers snapped away, hustlers snapped and cracked their cards before passing them out. I pushed one away, nearly knocking him over. It was crowded. I could barely keep my balance. I felt Raoul's hand tighten in mine. I stopped. We decided to go across the street and catch the next fountain show at the Bellagio. Raoul had never seen such a thing. It was the most romantic part of Vegas, most likely. I mean, the rest was besmirched by sin and vice. The worst it usually got at the Bellagio fountains was a pair of drunks in mice costumes sitting around, hoping to trade a few bucks for some pictures. Regardless of the backdrop, it was quite easy to get lost in the fountain show. Tourists flocked from all over Vegas to come see the fountains. If you were in Vegas, you were bound to have fountains on your to-do list. And if you were not going to see them while in Vegas, you were bound to see them while on the way to your to-do list. The best was at night, because lights were added to the fountain sequence. They often played a song to it. The crowd had gathered in front of a huge man-made reservoir that took up the expanse of the hotel casino. Here is where the show happened. People were lined up all along the wall, all the way up to the hotel itself, waiting for the show. Cars and limos entered and exited to one of the most lavish hotels on the Strip. Raoul stood at my side. We were almost center, the chatter of everyone around lost to us. At long last, the lights came on, and a hush followed by excited tones erupted from the crowd. Violins gently came on as the fountains came to life, dancing serenely like electric gossamer plumes on the water's surface. "Ponte partido," I whispered to Raoul. "Huh?" He looked at me funnily. I looked Raoul deep in the eye, the universe hidden in there somewhere. I pecked him quickly on the lips. I hope I never had to say goodbye to him again. Bocelli sang off.